What's up everyone, Dare here, back with my first fantasy football video of the 2017 season. Very excited, a little nervous, but mostly excited. Got my coffee right here, we got a great topic to discuss today, so let's get into it. Before I do though, as you know, we have a ton going on right now. We have the website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com, and you know, we're pumping out 5 videos a week. There's going to be no shortage of content out for you guys throughout the whole off season. For those of you that may not know also, we do have a Facebook group that will be closed to paid members only, but for right now you can secure your spot for free. We will let you know exactly what to search in the description box below so that you can lock in your spot. That's literally the best way to ask your questions and get answers from us right away. If we see a lot of common questions, we're going to try to answer them on video, but the best way to contact us is going to be from that Facebook group moving forward. That's enough about that. You have no idea how excited we are for this coming season. We've done so much research and we have a whole schedule planned out to get you guys amazing content week over week. So this is the top 5 players who get no respect. What we mean by that is based off their ADP and where they're going, compare that to what they did last year and what they should do this year. These guys are not getting any credit for what they've either done or what they have the ability to do moving forward. So we're going to start with a quarterback, and we're going to start with Philip Rivers of the San Diego Chargers. It's perfect to start with a quarterback because you know we love taking them late, and all these players we're talking about have bottom floor ADPs. So with Philip Rivers, everyone knows he is a solid player all around. He's even really fun to watch. Over the last 4 years, he's averaged 4,486 yards and 31 touchdowns. That's solid top 10 numbers. And right now, he's currently going at QB 20 right after Tyrod Taylor. His down year last year was mostly contributed to his 21 interceptions and 7 fumbles. But even with the down year, he did end at QB 14. It's not spectacular, but for Philip Rivers, that really is quite the down year. So let's take a look at something else. So Matt Ryan, right? He was a stud coming in at QB2 last year. Well, the year before his stud year, he was virtually unstartable, and this was also large part due to his interceptions and fumbles, where he had 29 total. What happened this year, he cleaned it up, you know, he got better numbers in the touchdown range, which is a little fluky, and you can basically expect the same thing from Philip Rivers this year. Definitely expect a bounce back year. Now, we don't expect him to crack the top 5, but he is definitely safe in that 8 to 12 range with some upside. Now, the loss of Danny Woodhead does hurt, but they really have so many weapons. They're going to be fine. They literally have more receivers than they know what to do with. You got Keenan Allen, Dontrell Inman, Tyrell Williams, Travis Benjamin, and now even with that rookie Mike Williams, that's pretty loaded. They're definitely one of the deeper teams at the receiver position in the whole NFL. Now, I don't personally believe Mike Williams is going to reach 1,000 yards unless Keenan Allen gets hurt, but I do believe that it does give Philip Rivers another big option to throw to. Even if Williams reaches 650 yards, which I think is much more reasonable, all that yardage definitely goes right to Philip Rivers' fantasy production. So we mentioned Rivers' receivers. He's not only throwing to them. He has 2 big red zone threats in Antonio Gates and Hunter Henry, who combined for 15 total touchdowns last year. On top of that, they also combined for about 1,000 yards between the 2 of them. Then you can't forget about Melvin Gordon. Even though he's more of a runner, he did end up catching 41 balls out of the backfield in just 13 games for another about 420 yards. So if you're saying you can't match his production from last year or exceed that, then you're crazy. Right now he's going at QB 20. QB 20. That's just absolutely crazy. Like we said, he should be in that 8 to 12 range with some upside. Man, give Philip Rivers the respect he deserves. Okay, so moving on, we have Devante Parker of the Miami Dolphins. Now, I believe in Adam Gase. What an amazing hire for that organization that was, and I love the fact that he kept a lot of the same pieces that he had from last year. Specifically, that's going to help the quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is going to have much more consistency to build off of this year. So many head coaches come in and they try to make too many changes. They try to think like they're Kevin Costner, the GM from the movie Draft Day. More often than not, they end up hurting the team. I mean, look at Chip Kelly. He literally set the Eagles back about 2 to 3 years, and they're still recovering from that in a lot of areas. But I digress. Let's move back to Parker and where he fits in. He hasn't played a full 16-game season yet, which is kind of concerning. Rumors about him are mostly that he's not really a motivated player when it comes to practice or film study. It's not really something you want to hear. His production up until this point hasn't been spectacular. Last year, Parker had a disappointing 56 receptions for 744 yards and 4 touchdowns. Even with those totals, you can't forget that he was a first-round pick. 14th overall in 2015, and his measurables are off the charts. He comes in at 6'3", 212, and he runs a 4.45 40 and is in the 89th percentile for speed. He has explosiveness too, coming in the 70th percentile in that category as well. He's a stud in college, so he knows what it's like to be on top. He just hasn't gotten there yet. So when I'm looking back and I'm seeing his improvement year over year, he definitely improved in every category, but most importantly to me, the thing that I'm looking at is his catch rate. His catch rate is definitely much more improved than his rookie year, so that's something he can really build off of. Now, we're not saying he's going to be a high-end wide receiver 2 or anything, but he's coming off the board at wide receiver 59. That's in the 11th round. That's virtually a steal. That's essentially a wide receiver 5. When comparing him to other wide receivers drafted in that range, he definitely has the most upside. It's very clear. You can't put too much weight on the rumors that have been coming out from the Dolphins training camp. It always happens this time of year. The camp's basically saying that he's looking better than ever, putting in the extra effort like a true competitor. I mean, we're not saying that it's not true, but I'm going to wait until we see it on the field to believe it. Either way, wide receiver 5, there's no way he can't return value at that position. Parker comes in that wonderful third year where wide receivers tend to break out. We really expect him to show improvement in all areas from last year and should be a worthy flex option throughout the season. Alright, so who do we have next? We have Hunter Henry, Los Angeles Chargers tight end. Okay, so this one I'm not going to go too in depth because we have mentioned him in other videos. Check out our last video on rookie tight ends. Shout out to that. We do mention Hunter Henry and how he is a great value. About him, he's got 8 TDs in his rookie season. That is incredible. That went along with his 478 receiving yards. Rookie tight ends normally have trouble starting out of the gate. Henry definitely exceeded expectations. He did all that even playing behind Antonio Gates, who you know is going to get his attention until he breaks that record. Now Henry's coming in at 6'5", 250 pounds. Clearly, his size and his build is a superior red zone threat. Now we mentioned Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates, for somehow, some way, he's still kicking around. More than likely will see the field this year to try to break the record. I'm not sure how long it'll take. It seemed like the Chargers really struggled when they were trying to force feed him the red zone targets. But right now, where he stands, he currently is tied with Tony Gonzalez at 111 touchdowns. So all he needs is that one more touchdown to put him over the edge. I could see a situation where Gates may not even finish the year. I mean, he could be in a situation where he gets that first touchdown in the first game and retires just like that. He will be 37 by the time the season starts. For a couple years now, he has had trouble staying in football shape, and since he recently got busted for PEDs, you could only assume that he's putting in all the work himself, if you know what I mean. If Gates were to retire and miss some time, Hunter Henry could easily be a higher end tight end 1, probably around the 5 range. I'd probably cap him off there because we do have some players and more premier roles for the tight end position, but he's definitely going to be great, and the future is so bright for this young kid. He finished his rookie campaign as tight end 11. He's currently being drafted as tight end 16. I just don't see that happening. There's no way 15 other tight ends beat out Henry this year, even with Gates hot on his tail. If he remains at tight end 16, he is a virtual steal at the position, so if you're looking for a late round tight end, definitely grab him. We have a strong feeling he will not be at that ADP by the time the season rolls around because everyone's just going to come to their senses, get on the Hunter Henry train, and hopefully they don't overdraft him at that point so we can still have some good value. But all I'm saying, give this man the respect he deserves. I'm really excited to bring this next player to you guys because I have very strong opinions on him, and this player is Mike Wallace of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, he is a true veteran and a journeyman, but more than anything, he's a speedster. I don't think Wallace has ever received any respect throughout his whole career. Clearly shown by him bouncing from team to team. And right now, he's ranked as wide receiver 46. That just goes to show you what the popular opinion on Wallace is. So something worth mentioning before we dive further into Mike Wallace, rumors are surfacing about Jordan Matthews potentially being traded to the Ravens. I believe this would be a good trade for the Ravens. Matthews can help keep the ball alive on third down situations. The Eagles have a lot of receivers right now, so I really could see them doing this move, but losing Matthews would really hurt them in the long run. This could definitely have a large impact on both players. I could see both of them being really good though. Your first thought initially would be that it could potentially take a lot of targets away from Wallace. Now, while you always want to have as many targets as possible, if the end result is if you're not able to keep the drive alive, then you actually may even end up getting more targets in the long run. Realistically, the two are completely different players. They have different skill sets. Each one could assist another by opening up opportunities. Wallace clearly lining up on the outside, Matthews primarily playing from the slot. If this trade did end up going off for the Ravens, I could see this being a very good move for them, but right now it's all speculation. Let's jump back over to Mike Wallace. He finished last year's wide receiver 24. That included 72 receptions for 1,017 yards and 4 TDs. When thinking of this player's 2016 production, I can't help but be reminded how eerily similar it was to Emmanuel Sanders, who came in at wide receiver 21. I actually owned both of these players in one of my leagues, and as the weeks went on, I really was just baffled at the fact that these guys were giving me so similar production. Sanders averaged about 8.4 points per game at the end of the season, as opposed to Wallace's 8.2. Sanders being wide receiver 21, Wallace being wide receiver 24. The only difference is Sanders had some real monster games, even scoring over 20 points twice. Wallace really didn't have any game-breaking performances. He did go 120 plus yards back to back. The only difference is Wallace never crapped your team. He only scored under 5 points 3 times the entire season. So if I were to say anything, it's safe to say he was consistently mediocre. There's a difference though. For the 2017 season, the Ravens will have lost Steve Smith, Kamar Aiken, the two combined for about 150 targets that can be distributed amongst the team. Some will obviously go to the running backs in Dixon, and then now they have Woodhead. I can see Woodhead definitely getting a lot of targets, especially initially during the first 4 games that Dixon suspended. But Wallace is definitely going to have a chance to improve on his numbers from last year. He is the best receiving option clearly that they have so far. And coming in at wide receiver 46, even though he's in a better situation this year, that just makes no sense. This guy gets no respect, and he definitely should be drafted at a much higher position. So keep that in mind. If you followed us from last season, then you will remember us talking about this player a ton last year. Even when we talked about him a lot, he didn't even get the respect he deserved last year, and nothing changed coming into the 2017 season. Still no respect, and that's Marqise Lee of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Marqise Lee is literally free. He's coming in at wide receiver 70. That is virtually undrafted. And this is a player who through his last 7 games averaged 9.5 fantasy points per game. It's absolutely crazy he is ranked so low. Here's the thing with Lee. He passed the eye test last year. Like I said earlier, if you were following the channel, we shouted him out a ton. We were big fans of him. Anyone who needed a spot start probably did not feel good about grabbing him, but if they did and had the guts to put him in, they were rewarded. So at this point, what are the question marks that led him to be so undervalued? First, he's on the Jaguars. We all know what happened to Allen Robinson last year. Everyone's a little bit sketched out to add anyone from that receiving core. Then throw in the fact that nobody has faith in Bortles. And now while I wouldn't trust Bortles to win a Super Bowl for me, he can definitely be good in fantasy. The end of the season, Bortles did end his QB9 on what most everyone would call a bad year. That's 9 spots ahead of the previous league MVP, Mr. Cam Newton himself. Also, garbage time is a thing. If there's one thing Bortles can be counted on, is that garbage time production. Most people are claiming that the defense is better, that the run game is going to be much more improved because of Fournette. Well, think about this. What were they saying last season? At that point, they had just signed Chris Ivory and made splashes on defense in the NFL draft with Jalen Ramsey and Miles Jack. This was a team that was essentially behind in every game in 2016. So Marqise Lee finished the year with 63 receptions for 851 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like we said, it was mostly during the second half of the year. That's when he really turned it up. Some people forget he was actually a second-round pick in 2014. This team still wants to see what they can get out of him. He's on a contract year, so if there's ever a time for him to prove himself and try to step up, it's now. Looking at these ADPs and looking at these selections, the only thing I can think when I'm going down these wide receivers, who in the world is drafting Brashard Perriman over Marqise Lee? That is crazy. Alright everyone, that's going to do it for today's video. Keep an eye out for a video. We're going to start them again on Monday. If you're looking for more content, go to our website. We have a fresh new article on rookie draft selections. Go check it out. It's more of a strategy style article, but it's definitely interesting. Check out the site if you haven't already. Check out those rankings and join our Facebook group. It's in the description box below. So please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.